Man, we moving timeshares like Silverleaf and shit. Man, we full of that AI over here, man.
I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial. I want to thank the jurors for the amount of time that they put in to judge this trial. And I just wanted to address the court and give my perspective on the things that I felt during this trial and the judgment that I felt that the jurors gave us was not the correct judgment.
She's really gone. She's really gone, man. Hands up!
You could ever say I've done those things to them. Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates, I could say you had these women that never had anything to say about you before this indictment, before the RICO. You had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me, or monsters, or I'm a monster, or took these proffers. This wasn't the case before they was indicted.
No contact with any of the victims named in the indictment, to include Diamond Urban or their families.
My name is John Mack, aka Mindbender, and this is Metro 360 News. Here with another great response to what's going on in the media and the legal world. Starting off with this artist named Cash Out. Now, before I go any further with any of this discussion, if you are a young man and you aspire to be a pimp or a player or a Mac, in any order, form, or fashion, I suggest you listen to this commentary very closely. You see, because there is a few of you who have watched a movie or heard a song and thought that the game was sold and not told, right? But let me tell you something. You will end up with worse than a RICO if you attempt to enter this business and think that you're going to be successful in 2025 with the law stating that anybody involved in that business could be hit with a RICO or a human trafficking charge. Don't be that guy.
I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial.
Man, if you thought she was giving you a fair trial before, and you thought that chewing gum in her court was going to enable her to give you a fair sentence along with that fair trial, think again, dumb nigga.
I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial. I want to thank the jurors for the amount of time that they put in to judge this trial. This time being on this trial, I was able to see how the jurors are put in a tough position to, sit there and judge someone's life.
In legalese, describing a tough position often involves terms like hardship. This term refers to a situation where individual, business, or party faces significant difficulty, suffering, or disadvantage due to unforeseen circumstances, making it difficult to fulfill obligations or meet normal conditions. In legal contexts, hardship clauses in contracts may allow parties to use relief or negotiate terms to avoid penalties or breach of contract when facing such circumstances. Hardship can also refer to the severity in which a proposed law or rule would affect a particular situation, often used as an argument against a rule.
And, it's a hard decision, and I felt like they made the wrong judgment. I've done things in my life, I'm not perfect. But the things I've been accused of, I know that I haven't done those things.
A general statement like "I've got too many hoes" isn't necessarily a direct admission of trafficking under Georgia law. However, it could be potentially used against you in a broader sense.
Tell you that if you sat in this trial and you paid attention to this trial, before these dates, no woman could ever say, "I done those things to him." You could ever say, "I done those things to him." Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates, I could say, you had these women that never had anything to say about me before this indictment, before the RICO. You had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates.
Now, he keeps referring to "before these dates." But let me open your mind to something here. Although Georgia law states that a general statement like "I've got too many hoes" is not necessarily an admission of guilt, those statements can allude to the fact that you are involved in that sort of activity, which could then prompt an investigation deeper into your life to possibly root out that guilt.
I can say, you had these women that never had anything to say about me before this indictment, before the RICO. You had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me, or monsters, or I'm a monster, or took these proffers. This wasn't the case before they was indicted.
If someone in jail attempts to contact a victim, especially if there's a no contact order in place, it could have serious legal consequences for the incarcerated individual, potentially resulting in charges of witness tampering or violation of court order, even if no formal order exists. Contacting a victim can be seen by prosecutors as an attempt to influence them or intimidate them, which could also lead to additional charges. Beyond legal ramifications, such contact could raise ethical concerns regarding potential coercion or undue influence, particularly given the power imbalance that often exists between an incarcerated person and a victim. Coercion involves forcing someone to act against their will through threats, intimidation, or pressure. Given the restricted environment of a jail and the vulnerable position of a victim, any communication initiated by an incarcerated individual could be seen as constructive or as coercive, regardless of their intent.
No woman could ever say, "I done those things to him." Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates, I can say, you had these women that never had anything to say about me before this indictment, before the RICO. You had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me, or monsters, or I'm a monster, or took these proffers. This wasn't the case before they was indicted. So from my perspective, I feel like some people can get bullied into a situation that they don't really want to be. And I'm sitting here just holding my head high and just, feeling that one day the truth will come out. One day the truth will come out on my situation. One day the truth will come out on this rape allegation, that these things never happened. And when you see a person get up on that stand and put their hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Now, I know a lot of bailiffs. They hear a lot of cases. They're in on a lot of cases, and they might not necessarily know criminal justice, but after being around and listening to so many cases, they know when something dumb has been said or stated or alleged, and they know the judge that they work for and how many niggas been wrapped up by their dumbass speech. And you could tell so much by the way this bailiff turns her head, when this dude makes this dumbass comment. Peace.
That means you have to be perfect like you're Jesus. You have to be perfect on that stand. You can't show a flaw. And that's a tough one. It's a tough one for me because I had flaws in my life. So you have to tell the complete truth on that stand. And I got up there and see people put their hand on that Bible and not tell the complete truth. And that's baffling. But at the end of the day, I put my trust in the Most High. I put my trust in the universe to bring out the truth, to bring out the truth of these people who made these allegations. To me, it's like you have no heart. You have no heart. And I know people want me to stay in line or walk a toe, but when you're speaking something truthfully and you're speaking from the heart and you know that this is not your character, something must be said. And I just wanted to address the court and give my perspective on the things that I felt during this trial and the judgment that I felt that the jurors gave us was not the correct judgment.
Wow. He said a couple of things that were baffling. First, he said to the judge, if you were paying attention during this trial. So basically, you made an assessment that they might possibly not be paying attention to sodomy, rape, coercion, human trafficking. And all of the nuances that brought forth those conclusions, as if they don't work in law for a living. You're smarter than everybody else, and you knew exactly the composition and care for the Son of Man compared to yourself, while asking the mercy of the court to see that the truth, spelled Trufe, will come out. And now, what I encourage everybody to do is, within every word he spoke, he didn't realize that there were legal composition connected with his terminology that could possibly lead to the outcome that it did by getting a double life sentence. Obviously ran concurrent, but nonetheless, if one charge dropped off, the other one was still there, with an additional 70 years attached. And the only thing that one could do in a scenario like that is scratch his head, because I know for a fact that he was advised by his attorney not to take the stand. And I guarantee, by all scale of the spectrum, that he was advised not to contact Diamond Irvin or any of the other victims in this case. Talk about making a boo-boo. You couldn't be stupider. Now, that's the first part of this commentary that I have to say. The second part is, all you young dudes out there that aspire to be players, do y'all know what really comes with this? Do y'all really know what comes with a lifestyle that, if you don't have proper knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in, will become a part of that understanding when you get life in prison made to display in front of everybody, when at one time or another you had a recording contract, and by making a hit single will probably receive publishing royalties for the rest of your life. But due to a traumatic mistake and foolish, egotistical mind frame, Diamond Irvin and the other assailants or victims will now collect your publishing for you, i.e., the game. You see what the game went through? $7 million lawsuit, lost his mansion, all that. Well, for cash out, he's getting way worse than what the game got because he has to spend his life in prison now singing She Twerk to punks. Serious faux pas. Man, and you know, like the disgust I feel for him when he went back to his cell and he was like, let me get a pack of them noodles. Did he realize that he gonna be saying that for the rest of his life? He just watched his mama get a 30 piece. She got to be every bit of 60 something years old. You can see that. Did he realize he was never going to see his mama again? Do you think they let him give his mama one last hug in court? My great granny used to pepper me with this phrase when I was a kid. She would say, the sins of the parents shall fall down upon the child. Now, there's a lot of us out there whose parents was active in some sort of foolish karmatic experience, and, well, here we are. As a collective, we don't usually learn our lesson in the urban community until we bump our heads. But that head bump right there is one that, you know, could have only been predicted when he decided upon himself to quote him by his own phrase, address the court. You see, you was smart enough to use verbiage like address the court, but you was ignorant enough to think that you were going to coerce the court. Egotistical enough to think that you asserting that these women were lying when you were proven guilty in a court of law by 12 of your peers, 6 men and 6 women allegedly. You alleged that people may or may not be paying attention to this case. You were smart enough to make that assessment. No, you weren't smart enough to make that assessment. I could tell by your speech. I could tell by the fact that you were chewing gum in a trial for your life, man. I could tell by the fact that you showed up to court not wearing a suit because you had been in jail for the last 4 years fighting for your life. That your ego was still too large to cut those dreads off before showing up to court and looking totally different than the dreadlock wearing thug that the jurors saw. And when they saw those women get on the stand and cry and tears roll out of their eyes about how you sodomized them and threatened their lives by yielding a pistol, then to make the assessment that they are on your Instagram, of all things, you're going to bring up social media. The part that he didn't get was when he said Instagram showing their happiness or whatever verbiage he used. What he didn't realize was that by the standard of the law, happiness can be coerced. When somebody of a powerful position who yields more attention and public figurism, along with a monetary account that is larger than the average citizen's, that is going to be seen 100 times 12 as coercion. So, those not knowing much about the law and the way that it works, young men out there, please take it very serious. It's not a joke. Cash out just got cashed out. My name is John Mack, aka Mindbender, and this is Metro 360 News.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of this trial, the court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings. The jury verdict in this case reflects that the state met its burden in proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the diabolical conduct of the defendants occurred. The sentencing to be meted out by this court will be responsive to that. Mr. John Micheal Hakeem Gibson, would you please stand? Okay. On count one, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 10. On count 10, rape, life in confinement. Count 12, aggravated sodomy, life in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 22, trafficking a person for sexual servitude, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 1. Count 23, trafficking a person for sexual servitude, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 22. Count 25, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, 5 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 23. Count 27, pandering, 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 28, keeping a place of prostitution, 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 30, simple battery, merges into count 24, battery. Count 45, possession of prohibited items by an inmate, 5 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 25. Conditions of this sentence: no contact with any of the victims named in the indictment, to include Diamond Irvin or their families. You are to register as a sex offender. You are to stay away from 737 Alfred Road in Atlanta. You are to stay away from the Mezzo condominium, 2171 Peachtree. You are to stay away from the St. George's Commons address, and you are to stay away from the Fulton Industrial Boulevard corridor. All right, you may be seated.